Kashmir. The very name evokes images of breathtaking beauty and simmering tension. Nestled in the Himalayas, this mountainous region has been a point of contention between India and Pakistan since 1947. The dispute over Kashmir is not just about land, it is about history, identity, and the unresolved wounds of partition. To understand this conflict, we must travel back in time. Before 1947, India was under British rule. The British Raj, as it was known, encompassed a vast and diverse territory. When the British decided to leave India, they partitioned the subcontinent into two independent nations, India and Pakistan. This partition was based on the religious makeup of the population, with Muslim majority areas becoming Pakistan. Kashmir, however, presented a unique dilemma. The region was ruled by a Hindu Maharaja, but the majority of its population was Muslim. This demographic complexity would have far-reaching consequences. As India and Pakistan gained independence, the fate of Kashmir hung in the balance. The Maharaja initially wished to remain independent. This desire, however, was short-lived. Tribesmen from Pakistan invaded Kashmir, aiming to annex the territory. The Maharaja, facing an existential threat, turned to India for help. India agreed to intervene, but on one condition: Kashmir must accede to India. The Maharaja signed the instrument of accession, and Indian troops were airlifted to Srinagar. The first war over Kashmir had begun. This hasty accession, made under duress, would become a cornerstone of the dispute. Pakistan argued that the Maharaja's decision did not reflect the will of the Kashmiri people. India, on the other hand, maintained that the accession was legal and binding. Thus began a conflict that would define the relationship between India and Pakistan for decades to come. The 1947 war was a brutal conflict. Both India and Pakistan committed significant military forces to the fight. The war raged on for over a year, leaving a trail of destruction and displacement in its wake. In 1949, a ceasefire was brokered by the United Nations. The ceasefire line, known as the Line of Control, divided Kashmir into two parts. India controlled the larger portion, including the Kashmir Valley, Jammu and Ladakh. Pakistan gained control of Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. The ceasefire, however, was not a solution. It merely froze the conflict in place. The UN called for a plebiscite to determine the will of the Kashmiri people. This plebiscite, however, never materialized. Both India and Pakistan had their own interpretations of the UN resolutions. They remained locked in a stalemate, each side unwilling to make concessions. The 1947 war had a profound impact on both India and Pakistan. It deepened the mistrust between the two nations and solidified the Kashmir issue as the core dispute in their relationship. The war also left behind a legacy of displacement and trauma for the people of Kashmir. The dream of a peaceful and prosperous Kashmir seemed increasingly distant. The unresolved Kashmir conflict cast a long shadow over the region. It fueled an arms race between India and Pakistan. Both countries poured resources into strengthening their militaries, diverting precious funds from education, healthcare, and development. The fragile peace in Kashmir shattered once again in 1965. The Second Kashmir War was sparked by a series of border skirmishes. Both India and Pakistan blamed each other for violating the ceasefire agreement. What began as a limited conflict quickly escalated into a full-blown war. The 1965 war lasted for 5 weeks. It involved large-scale tank battles, aerial combat, and heavy artillery fire. The fighting came to an end after international pressure led to a UN-brokered ceasefire. The Tashkent Declaration, signed in 1966, called for a return to the pre-war positions. The 1965 war, like its predecessor, failed to resolve the Kashmir dispute. It further entrenched the mistrust between India and Pakistan. It also demonstrated the volatile nature of the conflict and the potential for rapid escalation. The international community watched with growing concern as the two nuclear-armed neighbors locked horns once again. In 1999, the Kargil War, also known as the Kargil conflict, brought India and Pakistan to the brink of war once more. This time, the fighting was confined to the Kargil district of Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistani forces infiltrated across the line of control, occupying strategic heights in the Kargil sector. India responded with Operation Vijay, a military campaign to evict the Pakistani intruders. The Kargil War lasted for 2 months. It involved fierce fighting at high altitudes. The conflict ended after Pakistan, facing international pressure and mounting casualties, withdrew its forces. The Kargil War had significant implications for India-Pakistan relations. It highlighted the dangers of nuclear brinkmanship. It also underscored the need for a peaceful resolution to the Kashmir dispute. The international community, alarmed by the prospect of a nuclear confrontation, urged both sides to exercise restraint. Decades of conflict have left an indelible mark on Kashmir. The region has witnessed countless cycles of violence, each leaving behind a trail of grief and despair. The year 2025 began with a glimmer of hope. The winter had been unusually harsh. But as spring arrived, so did the promise of a new tourist season. Pahalgam, known for its scenic beauty, was bustling with visitors from across India. On April 22, 2025, that tranquility was shattered. A group of heavily armed militants stormed into a popular tourist spot in Pahalgam. They opened fire indiscriminately on a crowd of unarmed civilians. The attack sent shockwaves across India and the world. The Pahalgam attack was the deadliest terrorist attack in Kashmir in 2 decades. 26 people were killed. The victims included pilgrims, shopkeepers, and tourists. Among the dead were Hindu men identified by their faith and mercilessly executed. The attack served as a grim reminder of the volatile situation in Kashmir and the human cost of the enduring conflict. India swiftly blamed Pakistan for the attack. Accusations flew back and forth. Tensions escalated rapidly. The spectre of war loomed large over the subcontinent once again. The international community called for restraint and urged both sides to avoid actions that could further escalate the situation. The conflict between India and Pakistan has deep roots, stretching back to the partition in 1947. Over the decades, both nations have experienced moments of intense hostility and brief periods of uneasy peace. The Kashmir region has been a particularly contentious point, often serving as a flashpoint for military skirmishes and political tension. Each side claims the region in its entirety, leading to a cycle of aggression and retaliation. Economically, the burden of maintaining large military forces has strained both countries, diverting resources from crucial areas like healthcare and education. Internationally, the conflict has drawn in global powers, each with their own interests, further complicating the path to resolution. Despite numerous attempts at diplomacy, the underlying issues remain unresolved, leaving the region in a state of perpetual uncertainty. The hope for a peaceful future hinges on addressing these deep-seated grievances and fostering mutual understanding. It's a complex and multifaceted situation, one that requires not just political will, but also a genuine commitment to peace from both sides. Only then can the cycle of conflict be broken, paving the way for a more stable and prosperous future for both nations. Over the years, the Kashmir region has witnessed a relentless cycle of violence. This generation has grown up amidst conflict, with countless lives lost and families torn apart. The struggle for control and autonomy has left deep scars on the land and its people. In August 2019, the Indian government made a significant move by revoking the special autonomy of Jammu and Kashmir. This decision was met with mixed reactions, sparking both support and outrage. The region was placed under a strict lockdown, and communication channels were severely restricted, adding to the uncertainty and tension. The India-Pakistan conflict is further complicated by the fact that both nations possess nuclear weapons. The constant threat of nuclear war looms large over the subcontinent, making the stakes incredibly high. Any escalation in hostilities could have catastrophic consequences, not just for the region, but for the entire world. As the conflict continues, the world watches with bated breath. International organizations and foreign governments have repeatedly called for peace and dialogue. Yet, the path to a lasting resolution remains elusive. The global community remains deeply concerned about the potential for further escalation and the humanitarian impact on the people of both nations.